Hello, and welcome to this new episode of Hessian Scrum. Joining me today is Joe from legendary Italian band Cultus Sanguine. Thank you for joining us today, Joe.
Yeah, I thank you, Nicholas, for inviting me. It's an honor for us to be there and talk with you and to your listeners.
Yeah, so you guys have been kind of out of the game for a while. The last album you released was in was it The Sum of All Fears in 1999? So what's been going on since then?
Well, after the recording of the Sum of All Fears album, we grown too much, maybe. The entire goth metal market was really getting big. Black metal was big, but we weren't not goth metal, not black metal, because we never been the goth metal band, for example, the famous one at the time, like Theater of Tragedy, Tristania, and so on. We always been darker, depressive, and I call it shadow metal because it's different from both black metal or gothic metal. We never had Satan in our lyrics, so we aren't a black metal band. Maybe musical wise we should be similar to black metal, but black metal to me is something satanic, and we've never been. We in our lyrics we always talked about depression, useless lives, real darkness, and so on. The smell of a tomb. This is what we lyrically want to be, and musically, of course. And so with the boom of the market at the time, we received interest from also bigger labels, but the job for us was big, and we know we couldn't be a big band, so we were a bit confused at the time, and some stress towards us internally in the lineup, personally busy and so on. And by the way, we weren't satisfied in the way how the new songs were turning. So I decided to quit a little bit. This little bit was 18 years. But we always remain in contact among us, in band members, always been friends. Sometimes we get a call, have a beer together, and so on. So one day I called our guitarist, Federico. By the way, we are the same lineup like in 2-1 when we quit, the same members. All the 5 person involved are always the same lineup who recorded the Sum of All Fears and did all the gigs. So I give a call to Federico. Hey, how are you? What are you doing? I'm writing some lyrics. Oh, great. I'm writing some music. Okay, let's do a new album. And that is the story. We give a call to the other members, and 2 weeks later, we were in our rehearsal room practicing, and the new album turned to life. We took 1 year to create the songs. Then we had to play a few gigs, and so we have to turn up to practice for gigs, because it was something like 20 years we weren't playing live. So we had 3 gigs last year in Italy, and now the whole album is composed. It's going to be recorded this summer. We booked the studio, and hopefully will be an autumn release. So
yes.
Just a small breath. Sorry.
Because, I was very lucky that you sent me 3 songs, I got to hear for myself.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm surprised at how good it is. It feels like 1999 never left. You still have that passion, the fire.
Well, maybe because we don't listen most to a lot of modern extreme metal. Nowadays, extreme metal. We are still focused on our times bands. We still are friends with a lot of bands we played in the past. We were friends in the past. And the funny thing is, it is like nothing, time hasn't changed, hasn't moved. A few weeks ago, I was out with Walter from Orthoid Rape, and we were talking like 20 years ago. So the thing is that we had a quit, and they never quit. They always played and so on. But the funny thing is, like, for us playing, it's the same, like 20 years ago. Maybe we are some kind of dinosaurs in extreme metal, I don't know.
But what is it about modern extreme metal that doesn't attract you?
Well, because I try to listen to a lot of new bands, but the thing is that when I listen to a new black metal band, for example, okay, is good, but I still prefer A Blaze in the Northern Sky.
Yeah.
Or Antichrist or Black Shining Leather. But even for these bands, I heard the last Darkthrone album. I bought it, but is in the middle of my CDs. But when I have to listen to a Darkthrone album, I still pick up Under a Funeral Moon or A Blaze in the Northern Sky, not the last one. So this is the same for new extreme bands, or maybe because I'm a little old. I don't know.
Well, I think those bands were a bit better back then than they are today.
Yeah. Well, there is still something interesting. I listen to few bands we are friends with, and I just heard the new Malario from Italy album, and the sound excellent, but it's not properly black metal. It's something Italian darkness, something different. The Masters, the HSS, returned with a great album, in my opinion. I'm listening to it a lot, and the new Black Oath album is great. But maybe in this case, I put a little friendship with the bands, so they have this advantage.
Yes, I understand. I'm very sorry. I can't control.
We have a guest.
So one thing I noticed with a lot of Italian bands, death, black, whatever you want to call them, all of them, you all have that very dark and depressed sound, almost very romantic at times.
Yeah, I think that maybe is something we have in our country, because if you look to all the Italian horror movies, has the same feelings. We have this general influence in Italy. In the 70s, Italian prog rock bands were different from prog rock bands from the rest of the world. They got something more artisanal, more a little bit darker for the time, and a little bit stranger. And I hope this should be a trademark for Italian extreme bands, because we have a lot of influence from the movie, also from Italian literature. And maybe it turns out in our music, or this maybe in my inner intent is what I put behind the Cultus Sanguine. I didn't, when I raised up the band in 1993, I immediately wanted to sound darker. We were more extreme in our first release. If you heard the mini CDs, the mini CD is more extreme than our albums, but it's still darker. Maybe because I am influenced both from extreme metal and gothic sound. When I was a teenager, my favorite bands was Christian Death and Celtic Frost. Both extreme, but different from the Celtic Frost, which is definitely my all-time favorite band, is not similar to the thrash metal bands of the time. Is unique.
Yes, I know very well. I mean, you take Circle of the Tyrants, very epic, it's very poetic, and there's conquest, sadness, there's a lot of emotions compared to something like, Exodus.
Yeah, you got the point. And maybe they got influences from outside metal. They always listen to gothic, to rock, to prog rock. So all this influence turned out in a immense band, which is different from all the others. And maybe in my inner influences, when I created Cultus Sanguine, I mixed up all those influences in what our music turned out. And then also, horror movies soundtrack. Italian horror movies always have great soundtracks.
Of course, Rosso Profondo by Goblin.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But also, if you look at The Beyond from Lucio Fulci, as a great soundtrack, not so famous as Profondo Rosso, but always a great soundtrack, really creepy and different from the other Hollywood horror movies. And this maybe influenced us a lot. I wish so. This is what I love to think.
I understand. The thing about, Italian horror movies about at that time, I always get the impression, it's not about the plot or what happens to the characters. It's always about a very peculiar feeling. Sometimes the stories get a bit crazy, a bit occultist,
Yeah.
There's not much logic compared to American horror movies at the same time.
Well, in Italy, horror movies in the 70s or 80s, there were very little money to create a movie, so they had to improvise. I read a lot of funny stories that then with the same characters, the same set, and the same time, maybe they shot an horror movie and a porno movie contemporarily. Yeah, this is funny. If you look to Cannibal Holocaust and Porno Holocaust, were shot in the same time with the same characters in the same set. The other one, which is, I don't remember, Anthropovagus.
Yes.
Yeah, it was shot with the same characters from Porno Holocaust. This is really fun. But this was because of the lack of money. They should be really productive. It's not a waste of time.
Yeah, now I understand Yakula.
Yeah. Oh, you just mentioned it. Another great Italian horror dark band. I don't know if you know them, Yakula and Antonius Rex.
Yes.
Yeah, they are fantastic, and they are from the 70s. If you imagine that in the 70s, in Italy, music was just I Love You, Romantic, Sanremo, and so on. And we had at the same time a crazy act like Yakula. This is unimaginable. Not just for Italy. but also in the rest of Europe, there weren't so many dark bands. Yakula is really horror music, and I think they were unique.
Yes, oh yeah,
For the
definitely.
time. Yeah.
But then you know that stuff became very, very popular because you know, a few months ago I went to an Italian shop that has a lot of old CDs, cassettes, vinyl, everything, all that stuff, and I couldn't get any of that classic Italian horror stuff. There was none of it, all gone.
Yeah, it's really requested on the market, and the prices for this release are raised up really high. I don't know how much should cost a Yakula vinyl original album, but I don't know if you know Devil Doll from Italy and Slovenia.
No.
Oh, you should check them out because
will.
they are another band I definitely love. They have really horror music with orchestra from Slovenia, and the main composer is an Italian guy, apart from all the scene. He is not into metal, not into goth. He's just retired in his own home in Venice, and I think the last album is from 1999 as well. It's this year. You should check them out because they are fantastic. And this, sorry?
No, sorry. I just I just saying
no,
I definitely will check them out.
Their releases are really highly requested on the market.
Yeah. So, you know, also the way you sang, you know, obviously it's changed quite a bit over the years. But, you know, when you started really on that, you know, the Cultus Sanguine EP, you weren't going for the death metal style. You weren't going for a black metal style. There's no heavy metal. You know, you're kind of doing your own thing.
Yeah. I always try to do my own thing. And I think that in the good and in the band, the voice recognizes us. Maybe you love it, maybe someone hates it, but we are recognizable from our voice, from our keyboards, which are really particular. And on the new album, I'm trying to, well, I'm a little bit older than when I recorded the Sum of All Fears. So maybe my older voice should sound in a different way than the Sum of All Fears. But even in this album, I will change a little bit. Not changing, sorry, is not the correct expression. I want to improve my way of singing. And the thing I am a little bit disappointed that in an album recorded in studio, I can put everything I want, all my ideas in the vocal wise, but I cannot reproduce them all on stage. But I try to sing in a way I could repeat on stage, but sometimes I use in the same time 3 different voices in studio. I sing in 3 different ways and then mix them all. So the result is something really weird.
I know, and also sometimes you use a very, you know, a lot of throat singing, you know, like Attila from Mayhem at times.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, that's something that we don't hear enough in metal, because I love that kind of style of singing. I mean, where did you get that from?
From all, I don't know. It's my natural voice for the first. And during rehearsal, when we compose a new song, I change the way of singing it. You know, I keep the melody for the song, but I change vocal-wise really a lot of times until I found the correct one. But it turns out this way. I really don't know where. And then when we rehearse, the other guys loves one and doesn't like another, maybe. So we arrive to the one which is the final way of singing. I try all my different ways of expression. And then when I get in studio, maybe I have other ideas. Because when we recorded the three new songs, some ideas came out in the studio.
Yeah, because when I listen, because I know your stuff quite well. So from what I already remember, you have 4 or 5 voices that you use quite a lot. But then there's some stuff you'll do on one song, but you'll never do it again. Is there a bit of improvisation there?
No, it's just I like it for that particular song. When the song is done, I feel that this way of singing should be appropriate for this moment of the song, but just for that moment. Are songs and parts of the songs which burns in that way and are enough just for that song. For example, in the new album, there should be an entire song which I sang in Italian. I never did it because in the previous album on Il Sangue and Verrà il tempo dei morti, I just sang a part of the song in Italian, not the whole song. On the new album, there shall be an entire song in Italian. But I wrote that lyric and was perfect, all in Italian. When I started to sing it, fits perfectly, so it lasted this way.
That's something that's always very weird with the kind of Italian, that style of Italian dark metal that you do. None of you guys ever really wrote songs in Italian, all in English.
There are a few black metal bands who sang in Italian, but you're right. Dark metal bands, no, I don't think. Well, there is Malario, I told you before, which sings in Italian. Then let me remind, there are still a few. No, there are others who sings in Italian.
Really, but within that kind of classic style, from the 90s band, I can't think of any, and I listened to quite a few of them.
Maybe because we are from that time and we are frozen with our style and we don't want to get modern, or maybe because we shouldn't sound good in a modern way. Our style is good because it sounds always that way.
Yes.
I don't think that with modern sounds, we should sound good.
Oh.
Our sound must be dusty,
Yes, of course. I don't know. If it's too clean, it just sounds like pop music. I mean, that's what I always feel with metal.
Yeah. There are a lot of metal bands sounding clean, perfect, artificial, but it doesn't fit for us.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't like that. Even even in the studio when they do 10 million vocal tracks to get that one perfect, that one perfect part that's 30 seconds, but they spend 10 hours doing it.
I reveal you a secret. You heard the 3 new songs. Do you imagine how I used in the studio to record them, the vocals?
Oh.
3 hours for 3 songs.
That's short, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been in the studio to record the voices for the album, and we took just an afternoon in arriving, recording, having a chat with the studio owner, 4 hours all the time.
That's perfect. But one thing I want to ask you, because sometimes you're singing in a more traditional kind of style. You're really singing with notes and everything. But
Yeah.
You sometimes you don't hit the note sometimes. Sometimes you're very kind of like singing almost out of key, just slightly. And do you ever feel, whenever you listen to that, do you ever feel like, no, I need to redo that? Oh no, it's good. It's not perfect. It has to be like this.
It has to be like this. I don't want it to sound too perfect, because I like to interpret it and to turn it creepy. So out of note is wanted. If you check this out when I am on stage, is not wanted. But in the studio is wanted.
Yeah.
Because in the band, I am the only one who didn't study the music. All the other guys studied a lot. Our bass player is a professional musician. He's a teacher to violin school. So he should recognize immediately if I mistake on a note. So it's always wanted when there is this mistaken note.
That's very good. So, from the, kind of the mini CD up to, Shadow's Blood. Shadow's Blood, you did kind of clean things up, and you drifted away from extreme metal in many ways.
Yeah. We started our growing from being extreme but different in the extreme range. We didn't want to sound from the first time. I wanted to sound as a unique band, recognizable. Then you may like it or not, but it's recognizable. I heard a lot of bands good in playing, in recording, and so on. But when you hear them, you say, okay, they sounds like the Muborgir, they sounds like Dark Funeral. Okay, there are already the Muborgir or Dark Funeral, for example. Yeah. I listen to them, not to a copy. I prefer the original. And so we always try to do something on our own, not referring to someone else. This is really important for us. Being recognizable, always, yeah, with our trademark of sound.
And, one thing I always find that, every style in metal has been reproduced, replicated by, 15, 14, whatever year olds, everyone. But except the Italian stuff, Sinoth, Maleficarum, Mortuary Drape, no one's ever tried to reproduce that style, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Mortuary Drape around from ages before us, and still they did a lot of albums, improving as musicians and so on, but always recognizable. Sinoth as well. I always like Sinoth from their very first demo tape, because they had this great dark sound, being an extreme band, but really darker. And I don't know, they are so original, which is not so easy to copy them because of their originality. Another one is Monumentum from Italy, which is impossible to reproduce.
Yeah. And
you know them.
Yes, of course, because two of the guys were on the first Cultus Sanguine EP.
One.
Yeah, one. Sorry, yeah.
Roberto and me were I was the former of the Cultus Sanguine, and when I raised up the band, the first person I called was Roberto, who joined. Then, after the Shadow's Blood recording, he left because, for a simple reason, we were really close friends at the time, and he told me, okay, I'm creating a riff. I use it for Monumentum or for Cultus Sanguine. This we wanted to set mostly on Monumentum, and was okay for us. Was a friendship, friendly breaking. I understand him, and then I found Federico, who took Cultus Sanguine as his band, and now from after the recording of Shadow's Blood, when Federico joined, he immediately drawn into Cultus Sanguine at 100%. All the guys in the band are really involved in the band and all in this band.
Yeah. I mean, despite the change of guitarists, we can still tell it's Cultus Sanguine. So do you guys compose the music together?
Yeah. No, all the members arrive with their own ideas, or maybe the line of the songs of the new song ready. Then we start to rehearse it, and maybe the song remain as it was originally composed, or maybe it changes during rehearsal. But for this album, all the guys arrived in studio with quite all the song ready. Then all the members put in their way of playing, because the guitar player or the bass player the keyboard player composed all the songs. But all of them arrived with 3 or 4 songs ready, and then we started playing it, rehearsing it. And all of us put in their own part.
That's great. So tell us, when you write lyrics, what are your big lyrical inspirations?
Life.
Any books, movies in particular, any references?
No, I just refer to the miseries in life for this album. Not to books or movies. I just think to the gray lives all around, going on day by day, just living in gray, in this misery, and pretending to be happy when they aren't. They're just drawn in gray. Lives that doesn't burn, just exist. This is my main inspiration for this album.
There is so much, depression and darkness in your music, but there's the romanticism. There's that, the Italian passion, the fire. There's beauty in it. Where does the beauty come from, that depression? Because, anyone can be sad, blah, blah, blah. I wanted a Pepsi. I didn't get my mother didn't give me one, Anyone can be sad for anything, but when does it become beautiful? That's my big question.
Well, it becomes beautiful when it gives life to art, to something that shines in time and time. Then depression becomes beautiful. When you just don't write just words, I want to be sad, I am depressed, but your words may be similar to poetry. You paint depression with words. In this case, it turns out as art. The first idea a musician should have is, I want to create something that will last. And if you do thinking to other artists' release, you have failed. You don't create anything. You are a sort of tribute band. You should be a tribute to your ideas, not to other bands. You should listen to other bands, of course, love other bands, but you don't have to be a tribute. You must be a tribute to your own ideas and create always. This was maybe the main reason we quit that in 18 years ago, because I had the opinion that we were tributing ourselves. The new songs sounds too similar to the Sum of All Fears. I wanted to improve, not to do the Sum of All Fears #2.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, and it's worked very well because all of your records up to now have been very different.
Yeah, but always recognizable. This should be, every record, every album is a step for a musician, and you should step going on, not remaining all the time in the same place. A lot of artists in their career always sound recognizable, but always different. For example, if you took Holver,
Yeah,
they did always different, always Holver, but always different. They are maybe an extreme example because they sounded from electronic to extreme black metal to folk metal, but maybe Satyricon.
Oh yes, definitely, especially their earlier period from dark medieval times, like whatever I can't remember the third or fourth one.
Yeah, Shadow of Throne, Nemesis Divina, and Rebel Extravaganza. 4 extreme masterpieces, always the same band, but always different. In my opinion, this is tributing their own ideas, not sounding all the same.
I mean, do you believe that as long as it's original, and you're kind of tributing your own ideas, that the quality doesn't matter as long?
The quality does matter. Not doesn't. It does matter a lot. We recorded the Sum of All Fears in 23 years ago now, right now. If I listen it today, it still sounds great because there is quality in it, in the way it is played, in the way it is recorded. So quality matters.
Yeah, of course.
It's not the Black Album with 1.5 years of recording, but it still sounds good.
One band that I always tend to compare with Cultus Sanguine, and subconsciously is Bethlehem from Germany.
Yeah, I love them. I was speaking 1 week ago with the guitarist, and we were speaking about playing some gigs together. Should be great. Bethlehem, also the Anonicus, maybe.
Oh yes, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, we've always been compared with the Anonicus. I really like a lot both bands. Yeah, they are original, weird, darker, but all the 3 bands are different.
Yeah,
but really extreme in the way of being darker.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell they all you guys, you kind of have like a very similar initial idea, but you did something so different with it.
Yeah, also Sadness from Switzerland.
Oh yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah, I definitely love them. I were a huge fan of Sadness.
Great band.
More than Samael. I prefer Sadness.
Ooh.
No, I love the first Samael album and the first 7-inch. In my opinion, they were great. Then I don't like their other albums.
The industrial metal stuff.
Well, Passage is a good album, but the other After Passage, no, I don't like them. Maybe Ideas were over. I don't know.
It happens.
You got, because I believe they had a huge success with the Passage, so we try to replace it every time.
Like you said, if you're not attributing your own ideas, you're just staying in the same place.
In the first time, you should have ideas. Playing without ideas is useless. Not just playing. If I wrote a book and I have no ideas, or if I do a movie and I have no ideas, the result should be useless. Maybe the problem is that a lot of bands releases album as going to job every day. An album should be a manifestation of your art. So when you record an album, is because you have ideas for songs. Otherwise, you shouldn't release it.
Yeah, there are too many bands nowadays, too many albums.
Yeah, a lot. Every day I received invitations from new bands who maybe doesn't know that we are a band. Existing longly before they were born.
My God, there's no quality control. I once saw on Facebook, I do not believe it, some guy called Mike Browning, from Nocturnus and Morbid Angel. Some guy or some 16-year-old called him a poser who doesn't know what death metal is.
Well, I received an email message on Facebook last week on the Cultus Sanguine page, not on mine. Hey, do you listen to metal? Because we are a heavy metal band. We are really extreme. Listen us. Okay.
The lack of respect people have sometimes.
Yeah. But I try to look before sending a message, at least to whom I'm sending the message. But social are not are for everyone, sadly.
All right. Do you have any closing statements?
I really thank you, Nicholas, for this beautiful interview. It was really a pleasure to speak with you in person, and for your support. And I wish you should appreciate Dust once alive. But when it will be recorded, you will hear it, of course.
Yes, you have to send me the promo. I have to review it, because
of course.
The three songs I've heard, oh my God, it's probably going to be one of the top albums in the last two decades. It's so good.
Well, I'm really honored by your words, and I really thank you for me, for myself, and from the rest of the band, of course. And what else? A huge thank you for everything.
Thank you for your time.
It's a pleasure. You're welcome. Thanks a lot.
Thanks again. Have a great evening.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.